Inside the massive Sterling Holdings corporate building, employees rushed through the marble floors carrying laptops, coffee cups, designer handbags, and expensive perfumes that mixed strangely with the cold scent of air freshener. Phones rang endlessly. Security guards barked instructions. Elevator doors opened and closed every few seconds. And in the middle of all that movement stood a woman in a simple brown gown, clutching a wet file tightly against her chest like it was the only thing holding her together. Water dripped quietly from the edge of her sleeve onto the polished floor. She looked exhausted, invisible. The receptionist glanced at her briefly before frowning in irritation. "Madam, please move away from the entrance," she snapped. "You're blocking people." The woman apologized softly and stepped aside immediately. Nobody paid attention to her again. Not the workers rushing past, not the executives walking proudly toward the private elevators, not even the cleaners. Nobody knew that the company they worshipped so proudly legally belonged to her, not even the husband sitting upstairs in one of the largest offices in the building. And before the day ended, one envelope, one signature, and one truth would reduce Sterling Holdings to complete silence. She had never liked attention. Even as a child, she preferred quiet corners, books, and silence over crowded gatherings. Her grandfather used to laugh about it. "You were born observing people," Chief Jonathan would tell her, "not performing for them." Chief Jonathan was one of the most respected businessmen in Lagos. Factories, oil contracts, real estate, shipping. His empire stretched farther than most people knew. But unlike wealthy men who chased attention, Chief Jonathan hated public display. He wore simple clothes, drove ordinary cars sometimes, and avoided unnecessary publicity. One evening when Lena was younger, they sat together outside his old mansion while rain fell softly across the garden. Chief Jonathan looked at her carefully and said, "Money is dangerous, Lena." She laughed lightly. "How can money be dangerous?" He smiled sadly. "Because money reveals people, and sometimes it reveals monsters." At the time, she did not understand him. When Lena turned 24, Chief Jonathan became seriously ill. The sickness came suddenly. Within weeks, hospitals became his second home. Machines surrounded him constantly. Doctors whispered outside rooms, and family members who barely visited him before suddenly became extremely caring. Lena noticed everything: the fake concern, the rehearsed tears, the hidden conversations about inheritance. She stayed beside him every single day, fed him, read newspapers to him, held his hand through painful nights. One stormy evening, rain tapped gently against the hospital window while the old man struggled to breathe. He motioned weakly for Lena to come closer. "I trust nobody except you," he whispered. Tears filled her eyes instantly. "Grandpa, please don't say that." But he squeezed her hand gently. "Listen carefully to me." His breathing became slower. "Sterling Holdings, the controlling shares, everything belongs to you now." Lena froze completely. She shook her head immediately. "No, I don't want any of that." And for the first time in days, Chief Jonathan smiled. "That is exactly why you deserve it." Then his expression changed. "Don't tell anybody yet, especially family, especially men who love money more than loyalty." 3 days later, Chief Jonathan died, and Lena's peaceful life disappeared with him. The funeral was massive. Politicians arrived with long convoys, business executives wore expensive black suits, fake tears flowed everywhere. People whispered constantly, "Who controls the company now?" Maybe the board members, maybe the uncle, maybe the shares have already been divided. Meanwhile, Lena sat quietly in black clothes beside the coffin while grief swallowed her whole. Nobody suspected her, exactly as the lawyers intended. Chief Jonathan had left strict legal instructions. The ownership documents would remain confidential until Lena personally decided to step forward. Until then, only one person knew the truth: Barrister Alex. Months later, Lena met Nathan. At first, he felt different. They met inside a small bookstore cafe during a rainy afternoon. Nathan was charming without trying too hard. He listened when she spoke. He laughed easily. And unlike other men, he did not seem obsessed with wealth. One afternoon while drinking coffee together, Nathan asked casually, "So where do you work?" "Sterling Holdings," Lena replied. Nathan raised his eyebrows immediately. "That's a huge company." Lena smiled softly. "Yes," she said nothing more. She wanted someone to love her before money complicated everything. And for a while, Nathan truly did. He called every morning, sent thoughtful messages, brought small gifts, remembered little details. Lena slowly lowered the emotional walls around her heart. Then one night during dinner, Nathan reached across the table and held her hand gently. "I love you." Lena looked into his eyes and smiled. "I love you too." 6 months later, they got married quietly. No billionaire wedding, no media attention, just peace. Or at least what Lena believed was peace. Everything changed after Nathan got employed and was promoted at Sterling Holdings. The promotion transformed him slowly at first, then completely. He became obsessed with status, power, recognition, appearances. The man who once laughed freely now corrected waiters aggressively and measured people by titles. One evening, Lena entered their bedroom carrying food. Nathan looked at her briefly before frowning. "Why are you still dressing like this?" She blinked. "Like what?" "Simple. Plain." He adjusted his expensive wristwatch. "You're a manager's wife now. At least try to look expensive." The comment pierced her deeper than he realized. And from that moment, things only got worse. At work, Nathan gradually stopped acknowledging her publicly. Sometimes he walked past her in hallways without greeting her. During meetings, he introduced her as one of the junior staff, not his wife. Employees noticed immediately, and office cruelty began. "Lena, clean this table. Why are you always so slow? You should be grateful you even work here." Some mocked her clothes, others mocked her silence. And the worst part, Nathan watched everything. Sometimes he laughed too. One afternoon inside the conference room, a senior staff member named Clara intentionally spilled coffee near Lena's documents. "Oops," Clara said dramatically. Laughter exploded around the room. Lena bent quietly to clean the mess. Then Clara smirked. "You really behave like a maid." More laughter. Slowly, Lena lifted her eyes toward Nathan. He was smiling too. That moment broke something inside her permanently, but she said nothing. She simply gathered her papers quietly and walked away. That night, Lena locked herself inside the bathroom and cried silently. Not because of Clara, not because of the workers, but because the man she loved had become someone she no longer recognized. Weeks later, Barrister Alex requested an urgent meeting. They met inside a quiet restaurant far from the city center. Barrister Alex looked deeply troubled. "The board is planning something dangerous," he said. Lena frowned immediately. "What do you mean?" "They believe Sterling Holdings has no active controlling owner." He paused carefully. "And your husband is involved." The words hit her like physical pain. Barrister Alex slid a thick file across the table. Inside were the original ownership documents, her name, her authority, her grandfather's final signature. Everything. Barrister Alex looked at her quietly. "It's time." Lena stared out the restaurant window as cars moved endlessly outside. People laughed. Traffic continued. Life moved normally. Meanwhile, her entire marriage was collapsing. "I loved him," she whispered painfully. Barrister Alex nodded sadly. "I know." Friday night arrived. The executive dinner was extravagant. Golden chandeliers, live music, luxury suits, political guests. The entire hall radiated wealth and arrogance. Lena almost refused to attend, but Barrister Alex insisted. Tonight changes everything. When Lena entered the hall, several workers immediately exchanged looks. Clara laughed openly. "Why is she here? Did someone need extra servers?" People chuckled. Nathan walked quickly toward her, looking embarrassed. "Why did you come?" "You invited me." His jaw tightened. "This event is important, Lena. Don't embarrass me tonight." The words stabbed directly into her chest. Before she could reply, the chairman stepped onto the stage. "Good evening, everyone." The hall slowly became quiet. Tonight, we discuss the future leadership of Sterling Holdings. Excitement spread instantly. Nathan smiled confidently. Clara whispered loudly to another staff member, future executive director. Several people even started clapping for Nathan already. Then the chairman continued. However, before we proceed, our legal advisor has an important announcement. Barrister Alex walked calmly toward the microphone. Something about his expression made the atmosphere shift immediately. The room became tense, silent. Barrister Alex opened a document slowly. For years, the true majority owner of Sterling Holdings remained confidential according to the late Chief Jonathan's final instructions. Confused whispers spread across the hall. Nathan frowned. Clara exchanged nervous glances with others. Then Barrister Alex spoke again. The legal owner and controlling shareholder of Sterling Holdings is... He paused briefly. Mrs. Lena Nathan. Silence. Pure silence. The kind that suffocates a room. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then slowly, every single head turned toward Lena. Clara's wine glass slipped from her fingers and shattered violently against the floor. Nathan looked completely frozen, like his soul had left his body. No, he whispered weakly. No, this is impossible. Barrister Alex continued calmly. Effective immediately, Mrs. Lena Nathan assumes full executive authority over Sterling Holdings and all board decisions. Shock exploded across the hall instantly. Whispers, panic, fear. Nathan staggered backward slightly, his face drained of color. Barrister Tunde walked toward Lena and handed her the official ownership documents. She accepted them slowly. Her fingers trembled, not because she was afraid, but because heartbreak hurts differently when it comes from someone you loved completely. Nathan rushed toward her. Lena, you never told me? The entire hall watched intensely. Lena looked directly into his eyes and quietly asked, "Would it have changed how you treated me?" Nathan opened his mouth, but no words came out, because both of them already knew the answer. Clara suddenly stepped forward, her hands trembling badly. "Ma'am, I didn't know." Lena lifted her hand gently. "Exactly," she said quietly. "You didn't know." The calmness in her voice was more terrifying than shouting. The entire hall fell silent again. Nobody moved. Nobody dared breathe too loudly. Moments ago, the same people had been laughing, drinking wine, and mocking her openly. Now fear sat heavily on every face. Clara lowered her head immediately. Her confidence had vanished completely. Some workers looked ashamed. Others looked like they wanted the ground to open and swallow them whole. Then Lena spoke again, and this time her voice carried pain more than anger. "That is the problem with many people." Her eyes moved slowly across the room. "You only respect wealth when you can see it." The words landed heavily, like stones dropping inside guilty hearts. For months, she swallowed hard. I was insulted inside my own company. Nobody could look directly at her anymore. I was mocked, humiliated, treated like I was nothing. Her voice cracked slightly, and the person who hurt me the most, she turned slowly toward Nathan, was my husband. Nathan looked completely shattered. His eyes were red already. "Lena, please." "No." Her voice stopped him instantly. "Don't speak yet." Even the board members looked uncomfortable now, because the pain in her voice was too real to ignore. Lena faced the employees again. "I came into this company quietly because I wanted to understand the people managing my grandfather's legacy." She paused briefly. "And now," her eyes swept across the hall slowly, "I understand." That sentence broke whatever pride was left in the room. Nobody defended themselves. Nobody argued, because deep down, they all remembered exactly how they treated her. That night changed Sterling Holdings forever. Not because Lena screamed, not because she threatened people, but because the truth exposed everyone at once. Within 48 hours, chaos exploded inside the company. Several senior executives were suspended immediately. Financial investigations began quietly behind closed doors. Hidden fraud records started surfacing, suspicious transactions, illegal approvals, missing funds. And then came the biggest shock of all. Nathan's involvement in the illegal restructuring plans became exposed too. The same restructuring designed to secretly remove the company from its true owner. The board wasted no time. Nathan was removed from his position immediately. The news spread through the company like wildfire. Workers whispered in hallways, executives avoided eye contact, and suddenly, the quiet woman they once mocked became the most powerful person in the building. At home, silence swallowed the house completely. The same house that once felt warm now felt cold and unfamiliar. Nathan sat alone in the living room, staring blankly at the floor while Lena packed quietly upstairs. No television, no music, just silence. Painful silence. When Lena finally came downstairs carrying a suitcase, Nathan stood up immediately. Panic flashed across his face. "You're leaving?" Lena looked exhausted. Not angry, just tired. Tired in the kind of way heartbreak makes people tired. "I don't recognize this marriage anymore." Nathan walked toward her quickly. "I made mistakes, okay? I know I did, but I love you." Tears gathered slowly in Lena's eyes. "You loved who you thought I was." "That's not true." "Really?" Her voice trembled painfully now. "Because when everyone insulted me, you watched." Nathan lowered his eyes immediately. "Sometimes you even laughed too." The shame on his face became unbearable. Lena shook her head slowly. "A man who truly loves a woman protects her dignity even when nobody is watching." Nathan opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out, because she was right, and deep down, he knew it. Lena walked past him quietly and left the house. Nathan remained standing there long after the door closed, alone with the consequences of becoming the kind of man he once promised never to become. Lena moved into one of the mansions inside her private estate. The house was beautiful, massive, elegant, but painfully empty. Some nights she sat alone in the garden listening to the sound of fountains while memories played endlessly in her head. Nathan laughing with her in cafes, Nathan holding her hands, Nathan saying, "I love you." Then the newer memories followed. The insults, the humiliation, the laughter. Money suddenly felt heavy, lonely, painful. One evening, Barrister Alex visited her. "You've transformed the company faster than anybody expected," he said proudly. Lena smiled weakly. "I'm trying." "No," Barrister Alex replied gently. "You're healing something that was broken long before you arrived." And he was right. Under Lena's leadership, Sterling Holdings began changing completely. Junior staff salaries increased. Harassment policies became strict immediately. Toxic executives disappeared. Workers finally started feeling human again. For the first time in years, many employees felt respected. And strangely, that mattered more to Lena than profit. One afternoon, Lena walked quietly through one of the company floors. Immediately, workers stood respectfully. "Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am." Everybody suddenly became polite now, careful now, respectful now. But instead of satisfaction, Lena felt sadness because she knew the truth. Most of them respected her now because they knew she was powerful, not because their hearts had truly changed, and somehow that realization hurt more than the insults once did. 3 months later, Nathan requested a meeting. At first, Lena almost refused, but eventually she agreed. They met at the same small cafe where they first fell in love. The irony hurt both of them. Nathan looked completely different now. Thinner, tired, older, somehow. Like guilt had been eating him slowly from the inside. For several moments, neither of them spoke. Then Nathan finally broke the silence. "I destroyed the best thing in my life." Lena looked down quietly at her coffee. "Why did you become so cruel?" Nathan laughed bitterly at himself. "I was insecure." He rubbed his face tiredly. "The higher I climbed inside the company, the more afraid I became of looking weak." Lena listened silently. "And when people started disrespecting you?" His voice cracked now. "I joined them because I wanted acceptance, power, status." Tears gathered in his eyes. "I hate myself for it now." Lena felt her chest tighten painfully, because despite everything, a part of her still loved him. But love alone could not erase humiliation. Nathan slowly slid an envelope across the table. Lena frowned slightly. What's this? Divorce papers. Her eyes lifted immediately. Signed already. For a few seconds, she simply stared at him. You deserve peace, Nathan whispered. The cafe suddenly felt unbearably quiet. Then Lena asked softly, if I had remained poor, would you still love me? Nathan closed his eyes slowly, and that silence answered everything. 1 year later, Sterling Holdings became one of the fastest growing companies in the country. Employees described Lena with new words now: strong, fair, compassionate, fearless. But outside business success, Lena changed too. She stopped apologizing for being quiet. She stopped shrinking herself to make others comfortable. And most importantly, she learned that hidden identity reveals hidden hearts. One afternoon during a company conference, a young intern accidentally dropped several documents near Lena's feet. The young man panicked immediately. I'm so sorry, ma'am. He bent quickly, trying to gather the papers with shaky hands. But before he could finish, Lena crouched beside him and helped pick them up. You're helping me? Lena smiled softly. It's okay. Then she paused briefly before adding, respect should never depend on position. Several workers nearby lowered their heads instantly because they remembered. They remembered the quiet woman they once mocked, the woman they treated like trash, the woman whose own husband allowed people insult her daily without knowing she owned everything. So, besties, that's the painful truth about life. Some people will ignore you when they think you have nothing, disrespect you when they believe you are weak, and suddenly call you important the moment power and money become visible. But real character is revealed by how you treat people who cannot benefit you. Lena never needed to scream to prove her worth. She never needed revenge. The truth alone exposed everybody. And in the end, the quiet woman they mocked became the one person they could never ignore again. So before you laugh at someone, before you look down on people because of their clothes, position, or silence, remember this. You never truly know who people are, and respect should never depend on status. If this story touched you, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more emotional stories that will keep you hooked till the very end. And tell me in the comments, if you were Lena, would you forgive Nathan? See you in the next story.